Hello, my beautiful souls. My name is Nicole, and I am here to help you reconnect with your light. In the previous video, we talked about how powerful our thoughts are and how they have the power to create our reality. In this video, I'd like to talk about how you can be more mindful of your thoughts and therefore create the reality that you desire. The mind is a thinking machine, and it constantly thinks that we're not aware of the thoughts that we have. They just suddenly appear to us, they come to us. But what we don't realize is that our thoughts are the result of all of our experiences, of our beliefs, of our opinions, of the things that we have been taught by our parents, the things that we have experienced, the conditioning that we have been through in society, in the education system. So the thing is, it isn't until we can begin to start to pay attention to our thoughts that we start to realize what kind of thoughts that we are having. So how can you be more aware of your thoughts? Well, this is where the term mindfulness comes in. I'm sure many of you have heard of the term mindfulness, but probably aren't so sure about what that means. And mindfulness is just taking the time to pay more attention to the thoughts that you have going on. The first place I'd like you to start is to start to pay more attention to the self-talk you have. There's constantly that voice inside your head, the conversation that goes on between you and that little voice, you and yourself. How do those conversations sound? Are you your own cheerleader, or do you tend to pull yourself down? Do you tend to say that you're not good enough? Do you tend to criticize yourself? Do you tend to be extremely hard on yourself? Do you tend to put yourself down as opposed to trying to lift yourself up? Remember, beautiful souls, that the thoughts that we have create the life that we lead, because the thoughts we create, the thoughts that we have rather, create the emotions that we feel. And depending on the emotions that we feel, we make very different decisions in our life. As I explained previously, a lot of the people around us can feel when we are angry. We might not necessarily need to say anything, but we pick up on the energy of that emotion. Just like when we are in a fit of giggles, people might start laughing along with us even though they have no idea. But also think about it this way. When you are angry, you don't make decisions in the same way that you make when you are happy. So what is leading to those thoughts? Now, of course, external experiences and external circumstances affect us. For example, if you wake up and you didn't sleep so well, and as they say, we get up on the wrong side of the bed. Now, this could have been because you didn't get a good night's sleep, but think about it. All throughout your day, you'll probably be in a bit of a mood. And when we're in a bit of a mood, we tend to also be a little bit impatient, which means, for example, when you go to the supermarket and maybe the clerk is taking a long time to ring up your items, you might start to be a little bit rude to the clerk because you realize that you're running late for a meeting. Whereas on the other hand, if you had woken up in a happier state, maybe you would have started to have a nice conversation with that clerk, and maybe that clerk would have told you about a discount that was going on, and you might have ended up paying less for your items. So the way that we feel within ourselves directly has an impact on the world around us. So the first thing to start paying attention to is the way you speak to yourself. Just how you would not accept for people to speak to you badly, why do you accept yourself to speak to yourself badly? The relationship we have with ourselves, that relationship we have with that voice in our heads is so important. And it's important that we start to cultivate it so that we feel better about ourselves. We live in a world where things are difficult and we are supposed to be a certain way. But remember, the thoughts that we have are also based on the experiences that we've had in the past. It's based on our beliefs, the beliefs that were put into us by our parents, by the beliefs that we have forged due to the experiences that we have been through. The opinions that we have based on the content that we have consumed, movies we've watched, books we've read, conversations we've had with certain people. But now the thing is, everything is subjective. The way you and I see the world are very different because we have all been through individual and different experiences. So it's important that you start to question the kind of thoughts that you have in your mind. Are you constantly putting yourself down? Or are you constantly trying to lift yourself up? Because that has a major impact on the emotions that you feel. If you are constantly being critical of yourself, saying, no, you're not good enough, no, why did you do that, chastising yourself, putting yourself down, then imagine you begin to believe that that is who you are. But now, I'm sure you've all heard of the term fake it till you make it, and whilst that might seem a little bit strange, it actually works. And the reason it works is because our thoughts are vibrational frequencies. And the vibrational frequencies that we have that come directly from our thoughts actually come from the emotions that are attached to those thoughts. So if you say, oh, you're a dum-dum, oh, you're silly, oh, you're stupid, oh, you can never do anything right, eventually, if you start to repeat that over and over again, you begin to believe it. This is what we touched on last week when we talked about self-fulfilling prophecy. So how do you become aware of your thoughts? Well, the first thing to do is every morning when you wake up, rather than turning off your alarm clock and starting to scroll through your messages, your Instagram, your social media, your emails, maybe take a moment to be a little bit mindful. Maybe take the time to close your eyes and set the intention that you want for your day. So for example, if you're used to pulling yourself down constantly, maybe you'll start to say, I am great, I am worthy, I am good, I do better every single day. And this is where affirmations are extremely powerful. Some people tend to laugh at affirmations, but eventually the more you start to repeat these things to yourself, eventually you do begin to believe them. But also because you're shifting energetically within your body, that even if you don't believe it over time, the more you repeat, the more you repeat, the more you repeat, the more you believe. Just like how the more you practice something, the more you practice a sport, eventually you get better. And repeating these things in your mind constantly begins to change your mind. So it's about starting to pay attention, asking yourself, okay, what kind of thoughts do I have to myself? What kind of thoughts dictate my day on a day-to-day basis? What kind of thoughts do I constantly have in my mind? And this is where journaling can be extremely powerful, because taking the time to write in your journal first thing in the morning and asking yourself, how do I feel today? How do I feel about myself? Starting to question yourself, starting to question what your beliefs actually are. So this is where mindfulness becomes really powerful, because you become the watcher behind your thoughts, as opposed to just believing your thoughts. Start to now just pay attention to the thoughts that you have. I know that this sounds quite strange, and it is quite difficult, but this is where we start to cultivate the mind. And the mind is an organ just like the heart. It's an organ just like all the muscles in our bodies. And so we need to start to train our mind to become stronger, to start to do what we want it to do, as opposed to it running wild with us all the time and us having absolutely no control over the thoughts that we have. So you must start to question, how are you talking to yourself? Are you putting yourself up, or are you tearing yourself down? Because people start to feel that. If you start to say, I am a beautiful person who gets everything done, eventually you start to elevate yourself. You start to change the emotions you have in your body. Another way that you can become more mindful of the thoughts you have is start to pay attention to what emotions generally, not control, but the emotions that you tend to feel the majority of your time. So if you tend to feel sadness, start to question where that sadness is coming from. Ask yourself, why am I feeling sad? What are the things that are making me feel sad? Start to break these things down and start to question. Okay, well, for example, if I'm feeling sad because people have been rude to me, question, why have people been rude to me? Is it because I have been rude but wasn't self-aware enough to start to realize that people are simply reacting back the way that I am acting? So it's important to start to question the emotions that you're feeling and asking yourself why you feel these emotions. The thing is, when we've been in certain emotions for such a long time, we don't realize that we're in them, and we don't realize that we can feel a different way. This is where awareness becomes extremely powerful, because once you start to question yourself, once you start to be a little bit more introspective about the emotions you feel, once you take the time to process that emotion, I'll include a link to the video where I talk about how to process these emotions. You start to be able to change the way you feel, and you start to be able to change the way you think, because thoughts and emotions go hand in hand. What are the emotions that you're attaching to your thoughts? And what are the thoughts that you're attaching to your emotions? So for example, if I told you that you could feel happy whenever you wanted, the way that you could do that was by simply traveling back to a moment in your life where you felt extremely happy, feeling that sense of happiness, and then repeating affirmations to yourself. I feel happy always. I feel strong always. I feel worthy always. So whenever you are trying to bring into play an emotion that you would like to feel because you're feeling rather a low vibrational emotion in that point, travel back to a moment where you felt that emotion and think about what was going on. Think about the thoughts that were going on at that time, and simply allow yourself to feel those emotions once again. Allow yourselves to go back to the thoughts that allowed you to feel that emotion. So it's important that we start to cultivate the thoughts. It's important that we start to be the observer behind our thoughts. Eckhart Tolle wrote about the power of now, a video that I also included, and how he talked about how it's important to be the observer behind our thoughts. Not to judge the thoughts that come into us, but simply observe them. Take the time to observe them. Take the time to write them down. Take the time to question why these thoughts keep coming up, where these thoughts come from, what made you start having these thoughts. So for example, what you can then do to start destroying these thoughts or changing these thoughts is by going into the opposite thought. So for example, if you say, oh, I'm stupid, oh, I'm incapable of doing anything, go back to a moment where you did accomplish something and think about how you felt when you accomplished it, and go back, and now once that thought of, oh, I'm stupid, oh, I'm silly, oh, I never manage anything, go back and feel the emotion you felt when you accomplished something, and change that thought quickly and say, rather than saying I am incapable, change it and say I am capable. Change it from saying I am stupid to saying I am amazing. Change it from saying I will never achieve this to saying I always achieve what I set out to do. It's hard and it's a process, but it's a process that takes time. And if you choose one time in the day to do this, the first 10 minutes before you go to bed, the first 10 minutes after you wake up in the morning is the best time to do this, because the way we spend the first 10 minutes of our morning and the first 10 minutes when we go to bed is what will set the way we dream, and it will set the way we spend our day, or how we will go through our day. So in order to make sure that you're starting the day off in a great state, is take the time to question. Take the time to set some affirmations for yourselves. Take the time to break those limiting beliefs and go and start repeating to yourself the opposite of what it is you normally believe. Take the time to write these down, because writing down is extremely powerful. Writing down our thoughts has the ability to allow us to process those emotions. Taking the time to question the way we feel has the impact to change the way we think, because the way we feel and the way we think go hand in hand. So it's important to start to question what you're thinking. It's important to start questioning what emotions you have attached to those thoughts and to break them away. Start to use these affirmations to guide yourself and to help you start believing that you are a different person. The only reason you think the way you do is because you haven't taken the time to think otherwise. You haven't taken the time to realize that you have the power to change your thoughts just by observing them, being more mindful of them, taking the time to be more self-aware and questioning where perhaps you might be responsible for why you are feeling and thinking the way you are. So my beautiful souls, I'll keep this here in hopes that this will bring you some light in helping you change your thoughts. We'll deep dive into this in a following video rather, but please feel free to share, to ask any questions, to let me know how you're going through this process, and to let me know if there is anything I can do to help you through it. Keep at it, beautiful souls, one day at a time, one step at a time. Perseverance is what will get you there. Keep believing in yourself, and believe above all else that you have the power to change your thoughts and create the reality you desire. I'm sending you love and light, and I wish you all the luck on this journey of self-discovery. Love and light.